So just like in our previous sections, we want to be able to have a method for finding the area, finding the probability, and we just looked at that one. We also want to have a method for finding a particular data value. Like in this case, we actually want to find the value of x bar. Now, in order to find the value, we need to know something about the area, all right? And percentiles, these were actually defined in the previous section. If you looked at your homework, then you saw some things dealing with percentiles. Percentiles give you the area to the left as a percentage. So anytime I'm asked for a percentile, like in this case, the 30th percentile, and this goes for an individual value or a sample mean, all that means is that the area to its left is 30%, or in decimal form, that would be 0.3. And any percentile works that way. So if you want the 84th percentile, the area to its left is 84%. All right, so we know that if we have the area under the curve, right, specifically here we have the area to the left, we can use that to find the corresponding z-score. Okay, now again, there are different methods for this. So you may be using like an inverse normal function. You may be using the z button on your ALEKS calculator, in which case you'd need to change it to area right. Or you may be looking this up in your table. All right, and that's where I'm going to go just because I've got it handy. Because this is an area this time, I'm going to search for the area of 30% inside my table. Okay, so my areas are found in here. And I want an area as close as possible to 0.30. All right, so scanning through my values, I'm looking at 0.2981 and 0.3015. 0.3015 gets a little bit closer, right? That's the closest we can get. And it corresponds to a z-score of negative 0.5. That's from the row. And then the column shows me that there would be a 2 in the hundredths place. And this is the same thing you get if you're using the inverse normal function or if you're using the z button on your ALEKS calculator, and making sure for that one you use the area to the right. Okay, same method that you've been using in the previous section. So that gives me a z-score. Okay, area under the curve can be used to find a z-score. Now, what I want here is I want to find the corresponding sample mean value. And we know already, right, we have a conversion formula. To get to a data value, we just take the mean plus the z-score times the standard deviation. The only difference here is if we're looking for a sample mean x bar, we just have to make sure that we use the appropriate mean and standard deviation. All right, so in this case, right, the mean doesn't change, so 25 plus the z-score that we just found, and I want to multiply that by standard deviation. But because we're dealing with sample means, we've got to make sure that we use the correct standard deviation, which is actually sigma divided by the square root of n. So whether we're finding a probability, an area, or a data value, if we're dealing with the sample mean, we have to change our standard deviation. So I'm going to use that 0.8497 that we found in our previous problem, because that is the standard deviation for a sample mean value. All right, so if I evaluate this now, I'm going to take the mean. Make sure you keep the negative on your z-score. Multiply that by the standard deviation. And this is telling me that the corresponding sample mean, I'm going to round mine to 1 decimal place, is 24.6, and these are ages. So that would be 24.6 years. So again, the thing to note here is all the methods are the same as far as finding area or finding a data value. The main thing to note is that when you're dealing with sample means, you must change from using sigma to using sigma over the square root of n. All right, I want you to try the remaining examples. All right, so you've got example 3 here, and then you've got some additional problems under the check your understanding. So I want you to try those, and then I will post my completed notes for you later today so that you can go in and you can check your work on those additional examples.